I want to give the user the ability to delete a restaurant. So I'm thinking we'll have an icon here to the right of each restaurant that the user can click on. And this will take them to a page where they can confirm that they do indeed want to delete this restaurant. Before we add that icon, let's create the page. So I want to right click on the restaurants folder and add a new Razor page. This time I'm going to add one with a little bit of a twist. And that twist is I'm going to uncheck the box that says use layout page. So all the pages we've created so far use the default layout page. This one, the delete page, will not. Let me click to add this to the project. Visual Studio will scaffold out the page. And before we start looking at the markup inside of the CS.html file, let's work with the page model. Now, ultimately, to delete the restaurant, we're going to need an iRestaurantData service. We've been using that service throughout the course, so let's go ahead and inject iRestaurantData into this page model. I'll need to bring in the namespace odfu.data. We will name this parameter restaurant data, and I'll hit Control period to save that off into a field. And now here's what this page model is going to be responsible for. When there is a GET request, we're going to present the restaurant to the user. So we're going to show information and ask the user if they're sure they want to delete this restaurant. The page we show them will also have to include a form because we do not want to delete the restaurant until the user posts some information back to the server and says, yes, I confirm this delete. Remember, we never want to modify data during a GET request. So I want to create an onPost method. It's inside of there where we will do the actual deletion. And like we talked about earlier in the course, after we do the delete, we're going to want to do a redirect and issue a GET request for some other page so the user's not sitting on the result of a post. That's why I know onPost is going to return some sort of action result. OnGet, I suspect, also will need to return an iAction result. I also expect both of these methods to require a restaurant ID. We can force this restaurant ID to be in the route when we move over and modify delete.cshtml, just like we did with the detail page. We want this page to respond to a URL like /restaurants/delete/3, where the number 3 is the restaurant ID. So first, let's respond to onGet. I know that I'm going to need to display a restaurant, so let me go ahead and create a property of type restaurant, and that means I bring in the namespace odfu.core. We can call this property restaurant, and this gives me the model that I can bind against from my CS.html file. Now I just need to populate this. So let's say that restaurant equals restaurant data. Let's go out and get the restaurant by this restaurant ID. And there's always a chance that that restaurant is not in the database. So if the restaurant is null, we will return a result that tells ASP.NET Core what we really want to do is redirect to another page, specifically the not found page. Otherwise, we did find a restaurant, so let's render the page. Now inside of onPost, I can go ahead and ask my restaurant data source to delete the restaurant with the following ID. And remember that returns a restaurant to me, the restaurant that has been deleted. And that might be helpful because I can use that information in a message. But let's go ahead and tell restaurant data to commit those changes. Now, of course, there is a chance that we arrived here and the user either passed us a bad restaurant ID or maybe some other user deleted the restaurant before this user could get to it. So let's just check and make sure the restaurant is not equal to null. In other words, if it is equal to null, we can redirect to the page, once again, the not found page. Otherwise, what do I want to do? Well, I don't want to just allow the page to render and display a page as the result of this post request. So let's instead redirect to a safe page and issue a GET request to show the list of all restaurants. And just like we did with add and update, we could put a message here into temp data just so the user knows that they really did delete something. So let's say that restaurant.name deleted. That should be all the C# code that I need in the page model. Now let's turn our attention to the page itself.